pretty rare situation that goes this hard with the horror factor in my past installments of my Halloween special. I mean, it's my favorite holiday after all. Next to Christmas, of course. But okay, it's time to put my editing fingers to the test. Be back soon, people.
2 weeks later.
Oh my god, who the hell thought it would be a great idea? Alright, that idiot is me, of course. I would rather get myself with a big fork while dragging my balls over a broken mirror while tetanus. Ah! Ow! That did hurt. Ah, Jesus Christ. But you know what? It'll all be worth it. Roll the intro. Jeez, and my forehead is red after all that smacking. Jesus Christ, how hard did I smack myself? Holy shit.
Daddy, help me.
Welcome to the Halloween special, where we tackle the screams of agony, the inexplainable horrors, and the mystery behind the video game genre. Today we're going to be talking about a game that's a bit more avant-garde when it got released. It's usually in contrast with Resident Evil, with it being more action-based, while this game is a bit more psychological. Without any further delay, here's the game we're going to be talking about. That game is Silent Hill. Silent Hill was a game that shouldn't have existed in the first place to begin with, but it was made. That bold statement is not to derail the game by any means, it's to embellish the ragtag group of developers that made the game, something out of a Cinderella story actually. Team Silent, a developmental group within Konami, was formed on the basis that the staff members had failed at other projects and were close to being either let go by the company or leave on their terms. You know the saying, back a dog up in the corner and it's going to bite? Almost as if they're trying to make a statement to the heads of Konami that they're capable of making a successful game. Silent Hill in this case was the proverbial biting dog when Team Silent was backed into the corner. Head by director Keiichiro Toyama, who didn't have any experience directing, was put to task in putting out this last hurrah by this short-lived team. Key members include Akira Yamaoka, the sound director and composer, Hiroyuki Owaku, who wrote and co-wrote the original 4 Silent Hill games, and finally, Masahiro Ito, who created all the decrepit-looking monsters in the game, including Pyramid Head. All 3 of these people were the consistent members of Team Silent throughout all 4 games they made. All while the team went through many staff changes after another. As we all know, the first Silent Hill game was a huge success, much to the surprise of both Team Silent and Konami. A terrifying experience upon that rivaled Resident Evil in terms of horror that can even make Nemesis quake in fear. So what makes Silent Hill different than its competitor? Let's take a deeper dive.
What is this? What's going on here?
Silent Hill is the twisted town that our character Harry Mason ended up at. How has he got there? In the opening of the game, Harry is driving to town with his adopted daughter Cheryl for a vacation. Nearing the town, a girl walks into the middle of the road and forces Harry to swerve off the road to avoid hitting the girl. After losing consciousness, he wakes up in Silent Hill to find out his daughter is missing and sets out to look for her. Now this is where I have to give a slight pause, because if you stripped everything down, this game has to the bare bones is basically a typical father finding his lost daughter. But as we delve deeper, we learn that it's more than just that. As you notice, the town is ominously foggy. Some might say it's because the PS1 can't handle rendering far distance objects. To others, it adds to the horror factor of the game, knowing that something is out there to kill you, but you can't identify it. I'm on the boat that says, why not both? The fog in general is a good game design, whether there are limitations or not. Fog was implemented in the later games too. Pressing on with the story, Harry encounters what seems to be a nightmare scenario with hostile creatures and corpses everywhere as he goes down to an alley. The sky suddenly turns dark and sirens blare in the distance. As Harry illuminates the area, he finds the environment has changed too. The asphalt has changed to metal gratings, walls covered in blood, and rust meshed with chain link fences and barbed wire. Hanging in this surreal scenario are corpses which are unidentifiable since they are mangled beyond belief. This is an aesthetic you'll see throughout the entire game and the entire series too. This is designed to just works. As Harry goes deeper into the alley, he comes across a point of no return with hanged up bodies on the fence before him. Seconds later, he gets attacked by the demons known as Grey Children, only to be overwhelmed and killed as a result, or so we thought. As he wakes up in the diner to what seems like a bad dream. As a cop comes forward and introduces herself as Sybil, she is an officer from a neighboring town who is investigating the disappearance within the town.
Have you seen a little girl? Just turned 7 last month, short, black hair. My daughter.
Sorry. The only person I've seen in this town is you.
Where is everybody?
I'd tell you if I knew, believe me. But from what I can tell, something bizarre's going on. That's all I know.
She leaves you with a pistol to defend yourself, and within the diner you find a map, a knife, and a flashlight, leaving Harry only his wits and survival skills in order to find Cheryl and the secret behind Silent Hill. Once you claim everything, the radio starts getting a weird signal almost suddenly, and then that happens. Almost as if the radio hints that an enemy is nearby. If you're guessing that, then you are correct. This is one of the main mechanics of the game. With that being said, this is a perfect segue into gameplay. Perfect way to transition. Am I right? Or am I right? Anyone? Come on. You can't just leave me hanging like that. Come on. I'm holding out a high five right here. I guess that's the way how it is. Damn. Kill me, please. Anyways, the radio is the most important item in this game. It's a metal detector but for demons, except they're not metal. That joke fell apart the moment I typed this into my script. It's simple. Once you hear a fuzzy-like noise, that means a demon is nearby. The louder and eerie it gets, that means they are close. I'll play some examples for you. With a game that limits the gamer's vision to a tiny range, this is a very helpful tool that makes a frustrating game into a fair game. This game uses tank controls to control Harry. Now I know some of you might have a thing against tank controls because it can be a bit cumbersome, but believe me when I say this, it is not as restrictive as you think. Yes, it can take a while to get used to it, but once you get used to it, it is not that bad. However, there are some shortfalls with it, especially in tight corridors. For example, here I'm trying to go upstairs, but whenever I go up a couple of steps, I have to frequently adjust Harry's direction so he can go up without walking into the railings. Harry can also run too if you hold the square button while walking. If you run after a while, he will start panting. Nice little touch right there. Shooting is done by holding down the R2 button to arm yourself and the X button to shoot your weapon. The same can be applied to melee weapons, however, I don't recommend using it since it takes a while to beat an enemy and lead you to your death rather than an enemy's death. Speaking of enemies, the creatures you will see in this range from knife-wielding demons to nurses who definitely want to do more to you than just a checkup, and of course, demon dogs. Each enemy can be easy to kill to a bullet sponge. It immediately gives the player a choice to either run away from the demon or to pump lead into them. Ammo is limited in this game and it can take a while for it to come by, so pick your battles wisely. But be careful, because if you think for too long, the enemies might just gang up on you and lead to your death. When it comes to horror games, there are three main factors that add to the allure of the genre. According to Bon Evie Gifford of Habitful.com, it is tension, relevance, and unrealism. Tension provides a sense of suspense or fear to the player. Relevance is the idea that you can feel a connection to the characters by tapping into your fears. Finally, unrealism is the separation of what the gamer/viewer sees from what they are watching in reality. It disturbs your idea on how the world is like. When it comes to tension, the radio comes to mind because you know a monster is nearby, but you don't know the general direction where they're coming from until they jump out at you. You get that suspenseful feeling that something is out there hidden behind the fog of darkness. This element is used constantly as a way to bring fear into gamers. This game leads on the psychological aspects to the very T, and it's brilliant the way how it's implemented. The other eerie sounds within the environments also add to it. Just the fact that you can enter a room that has no enemies can still scare you because of the sounds that play within the room. It's quite a mindfuck and good use of sound. Have a listen for yourself at some of these. Let's take a look at Left 4 Dead for example, since they have so many sound cues that can get your anticipation radar going. The witch can be easily identified with her crying and the music that plays. You just don't know where she is, but she is around. The game is telling you to be careful. Perfect example is when the tank theme plays. You somehow don't figure out where that fucker is till he's right in front of your face to scare the shit out of you. I mean, silence is perfect when used correctly, but there's just something about the sound design of this game that makes you want to say nope and just quit the game. It's not egregious like the many jump scare games that we have in the market, hence why I believe jump scares to be a cop-out in the horror genre, but that is a rant for another day. Relevance in this game is used by the fact that Harry Mason is your regular Joe Schmo that happens to mistakenly end up in a town that is, in the simplest terms, fucked beyond belief. The fact losing his daughter, albeit adopted, instills fears for many parents that have kids. He also can't shoot a weapon correctly without missing some of the times, which is what an inexperienced gun user can go through when shooting a weapon. Trust me, I went through that embarrassment, so you're not the only one. This is the big separation between Harry and Chris/Jill in Resident Evil. But the biggest aspect is the fear of death. That is the fear that any normal being should have, because in turn it relates to the fear of the unknown. Harry doesn't know what is out there to get him, but he is willing to risk his life because he wants to save his daughter, and for that I commend him because Harry's got a lot more balls than me, I can tell you that much. Finally, we have unrealism. Even though this game is somewhat grounded in reality, there's always that separation that this will never happen, right? There is the fact that Silent Hill can go from a foggy town to this hellish landscape out of nowhere. This world doesn't necessarily have a name in this game, but in later games it is called the Otherworld. This world lies on the border where reality and unreality intersect, almost like it's another dimension that's impossible to comprehend for humans. Realizing this just now, that this world takes inspiration from full-time psychopath and part-time writer H.P. Lovecraft, who is known for writing in worlds and creatures that our own human brains can't comprehend, which can lead to one's insanity. No, seriously, cosmic horror is not meant for the weak-minded at all. I had a friend that actually read the Call of Cthulhu and he had a bit of an existential crisis, so please, take any cosmic horror genre reading with a grain of salt. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. The gameplay loop is to identify where you need to go next. Follow the map to your destination, look around the destination, and solve the many cryptic puzzles. And let me tell you, cryptic is way too nice to describe these puzzles that you encounter in the Otherworld. These places range from an elementary school, an abandoned mall, the cliched hospital, the abandoned mall, and finally the amusement park. For people who already play the game, I intentionally left one place out because it's annoying, and that place is the sewers. You don't only go to this wretched place once, but twice. It's monotonous that you have to run straight and deal with these gimp versions of swamp things who some are quicker than you if you don't realize where they are coming from. Bosses are scattered about in some places, not like they are that difficult to deal with. Just pump enough lead into them while they're wide open, then rinse and repeat. Make sure you have enough ammo for them because some of them be bullet sponges. During the game, you'll meet other victims. You'll meet other victims that are held at whim within Silent Hill. First, you meet Dr. Kaufman, a no-nonsense person who is trying to find his way out of Silent Hill.
But with all those monsters around, I highly doubt that she's... Sorry, I didn't mean to alarm you.
You'll also meet Lisa, who is in the same predicament as Harry with being stuck in the Otherworld.
7-year-old girl. What, she's your daughter?
Yes.
A 7-year-old girl. I can't say that I have. I was unconscious all this time. I'm sorry.
You get to learn their background through the many bits and pieces of information scattered throughout the game, but I'm not to reveal my hand just yet because that is spoiler territory and I haven't gotten to that part yet. Just know that they are relevant to the reason why Silent Hill is the way how it is. There are multiple endings to this game depending on what you do. One of these is early in the game where you have to pick up a plastic bottle in the kitchen and scoop up some red liquid, which is totally not important. I mean seriously, it is, if you can't tell by sarcasm. I don't know man, it kinda looks like blood if you ask me. This liquid determines your ending whether you use it or not in a certain situation. Like I said before, spoilers. See, I would talk more about this game, but this game is a bit too short for my liking if you know what you are doing. I mean, the fog isn't a giveaway that Teen Silent bit off more than they can chew, then I don't know what to tell you. Speaking of spoilers, this is the part where we get into it, so viewer beware. This is where we're going to be going into the important bits of the game, and if you don't want to be spoiled at all, just go to the timestamp that I have in the bottom of the video, so that way it can be convenient for you to just skip over all that stuff and just skip to the conclusion of the video, and my opinions on it. But with that out the way, spoilers in 3, 2, 1, let's go. If you were taking the time to read the various entries scattered throughout the game, you would have known that there was a fire that happened 7 years ago that killed a girl named Alessa Gillespie, or so we thought. But in reality, it was part of a ritual done by Alessa's mother, Dahlia, whom we first meet in the church. It was all part of her plan to fake Alessa's death so that they can continue their cult activities without legal scrutiny. We wouldn't notice till near the end of the game, but this is a twist of a lifetime if you ask me. The reason why Dahlia conflagrated her is to bring the birth of a god worshipped by the cult that Dahlia is a part of. Sadly, Alessa was indoctrinated into this cult as a child, so you would feel sorry for her with the experience she might have had. Here's another kick in the nads. Alessa has supernatural powers as a result of having the cult's god in her womb. We don't know how she got impregnated, but this is fucked if you ask me. Alessa was then transported to the Alchemilla Hospital and hidden inside a room in the basement by Dahlia and Dr. Kaufman, who has a connection with the cult. How, you may say? Well, he supplied the hallucinogenic drugs to the cult, which is a big aspect in the game because you find the bag of it when you do the Indian Runner side quests. The reason why this drug is used, known as PTV, is because it helps the cult members communicate with the demons of the other world while they are tripping. Not going to lie, this game gets a bit heavy-handed the more you read into it as a first timer, but bear with me. Kaufman had an arrangement with Dahlia to keep Alessa in the hospital for medical care after her immolation and oversaw her nursing. The only nurse that was allowed to take care of Alessa was Lisa Garland. Lisa was addicted to the PTV, and Kaufman used her addiction to blackmail her in keeping Alessa alive and maintaining the secrecy of the order. During her hospital stay, Alessa split her soul in half in order to prevent the god from being born. That soul manifested as Cheryl, whom Harry and his wife found as a baby on the side of the road outside of Silent Hill. Lisa went through so much abuse under Kaufman, going from heavy drug use to sexual abuse. This took a toll on Lisa's mental and physical state. Her drug dependency became worse, and she became emotionally unstable during the 7 years that she took care of Alessa. We never knew her fate till the end of the game. Alessa stayed in the hospital for 7 torturous years as Dahlia inflicted pain upon her by incantation that compelled her missing soul, Cheryl, to respond. In an effort to defy her mom, Alessa reached out to Cheryl with the intent of reuniting her soul and killing herself in the process. Sensing Cheryl nearby, Alessa projected herself and walks in front of Harry Mason's car on the highway, causing it to careen off the road and off a cliff. This is how we end up in Silent Hill, with Cheryl being lured by Alessa at a cost of Harry losing her.
Daddy, help me. Please, where are you?
Cheryl!
God damn, that was a lot to take in. And this is only the portion that happens before the game. We're just gonna go into the juicy parts that happen during the game. There's a reason why the town of Silent Hill is such a foggy mess. That reason is because once Cheryl stepped foot into Silent Hill, Alessa's psychic abilities returned. Through her powers, she shrouded the town in fog and created the other world to prevent Dahlia from advancing her plans. All the monsters you see in this game are a result from Alessa's imaginations and delusions. Harry was manipulated by Dahlia to do her bidding and convince him into believing that Alessa is a demon. Pot calling the kettle black, you fucking heartless bitch. That's essentially the whole plot of this game. Harry was basically being played like a fiddle by Dahlia in order for her to capture Alessa. As you progress through the game, you will end up in the amusement park where you first confront Sybil, who is possessed by a parasite demon under Alessa's control. Now, depending if you pick up the red liquid from the hospital or not, this will determine Sybil's fate. Yes, you heard that right. This game has multiple endings. For now, I'm going to be referring to the Good Plus ending, which requires you to do all the side quests throughout the game. Don't worry, there are only 3 side quests within the game. Moreover, they happen near the end of the game. After I'm done explaining this ending, I'll explain the other endings, but abridge and the requirements to get them. Using the strange red liquid on Sybil, you release the parasite that was taking control of her. Harry steps on it for good measure. Like in Zombieland, one of the rules is to do a double take to make sure the enemy is dead. Alessa appearing once more in front of Harry, he unwillingly uses the artifact, Flowers, which was given to him by Dahlia to trap Alessa. Dahlia appears, revealing that she did in fact manipulate Harry. Who would have thunk?
Dahlia Gillespie? Where's Cheryl? Where is she?
Alessa, this is the end of your little game. Mama?
Huh? Could she be...
You've been a ghastly little pest, haven't you, Alessa? I was careless, thinking you couldn't escape from our spell. But Mommy didn't know how much you'd grown. That's why I couldn't catch you all by myself. But what a pity, yes? Now you're half indebted to this man for his help.
Hey, what are you talking about?
With Alessa's powers going out of control, Harry once again falls into an unconscious state, only to be awakened in a distorted version of the hospital simply known as the Nowhere. This is the final area of the game. Scrounging these hellish halls, Harry finds Lisa in the basement where she forbade him to enter. Lisa's memories decide to re-emerge of all the messed up things that she experienced during the 7 years of taking care of Alessa. Realizing that she is not actually alive, Lisa pleads Harry to save her as she begins to hemorrhage blood. Harry runs away from the basement and holds the door behind him, listening to Lisa's blood-curdling cries.
Lisa?
Checking the basement after the scene, you'll find Lisa's diary, which explains that she was the nurse who took care of Alessa in return for drugs. Trudging along, Harry witnesses flashbacks of the cult meeting, which includes Dahlia and Kaufman discussing Alessa's hospitalization and the rebirth of their god.
Half the soul is lost. That is why the seed lies dormant.
And what soul remains captured in that husk is buried deep down in the subconscious.
Are you trying to say it won't work?
Harry soon finds Dahlia and Sybil, as well as a figure in a wheelchair and bandages. That right there is Alessa, but with Cheryl inside her body. Dahlia explains all the stuff that preceded the game, in which I already explained. With Alessa's plan defeated, the two halves of Alessa's souls are brought back together for the god creature to manifest itself. This god-like being is called the Incubator. Now, depending on which ending, you either fight the Incubator or the Incubus, which only happens in the good endings. In this run, Kaufman appears and throws a bottle of the red liquid we found in the motel. This liquid is called Agalophathus. It has the ability to dispel demonic forces from a person. Once thrown, the Incubus appears and the true final battle starts. By the way, Dahlia dies in the process. That's funny. Treated like a wet paper towel, easily disposed of. That's hilarious. Take a listen to one of the more horrifying soundtracks in this game. Fun fact, this is created by distorting the sounds of a dentist drill. Now that's edgy as fuck. Being the Incubus, the Incubator, the other portion of the Incubus, by the way, if you lost track, gives Harry a baby and shows him the escape route. Harry, Sybil, and Kaufman try to escape. However, a blood-covered Lisa appears and drags him back into the abyss. Karma's a bitch, and that's the way how it's pulled off. It's poetic to say at the very least. Harry and Sybil manage to escape the crumbling otherworld as the Incubator uses the last bit of her power to prevent it from being truly destroyed. The Incubator is then consumed by flames, and Harry and Sybil escape together with the baby with them for them to raise her. Talk about a perfect way to close up the game, just wow. Now, for its time, this game had a lot of dark themes that were tackled and were pulled off remarkably. But before I lollygag, I have to discuss the other endings. I already showed you the good plus ending. In order to get that, you have to go through the Indian Runner mini mart and find the code, save Kaufman at the bar, and find the code through Kaufman's wallet since he forgot to pick it up. Once you get all that, you'll get access into room 3 at Norman's motel. Pick up the motorcycle key at room 3, head into the garage of the motel, open the motorcycle gas tank to reveal the red liquid Kaufman used against the final boss. There is a key plot point that determines if you want to get the good ending or the good plus ending. For good plus, you must save Sybil using the red liquid. For the regular good ending, you must kill Sybil. Once going to the final boss, only Harry escapes with the baby in hand. The bad ending is you must do the polar opposite of everything in the good ending. You don't save Kaufman to trigger the motel scene, but like the good endings, it all depends if you save Sybil or not. In the bad ending, you don't save Sybil, and as a result, Harry wallows in his own emotions for not saving Cheryl. Harry is then seen bleeding out and unconscious in his car. This suggests that everything experienced was just a dream before his body gives out. The bad plus ending, you just save Sybil, but you don't trigger the motel scene. As a result from this, Harry still collapses from all his sorrow. Sybil then walks over to Harry to smack some sense into him and tells him to go as the other world collapses. Camera pans out as they're standing in the middle of the destruction. And that's pretty much it. This ending is not that great at all. I'm not the biggest fan of it. If you're gonna have a game that has multiple endings, at least be exact with what happens to the characters though. Don't just leave me hanging like that. Now, both of these endings are grim in their own rights. That is until you get to the yikes. The joke ending. Shit, I need to mention this part? Fuck. Anyways, the joke ending has been a running gag in every Silent Hill game so far. To trigger this ending, you must at least beat the game once and play a new game plus. Harry must get the channeling stone in old Silent Hill and use it in 5 places throughout the game. I will list these locations for you. Once you reach the last point, use the channeling stone at the top of the lighthouse, and the game will end right there as Harry gets abducted by aliens.
Sorry. Let me ask you, have you seen a little girl around here? Short, black hair.
I love how Harry just asked them if they saw Cheryl around, almost as if it was a meme within itself at this point. I guess after all that disturbing shit Harry has seen so far, the aliens seem friendly in comparison. Now enjoy the credits as unfitting music plays. Genius. I swear, that ending gets me every time. Now, I don't care what anybody says, that's the best ending of all time, and it's the canon ending to the game too. Fuck all of y'all. So closing thoughts on Silent Hill. It's a complete polar opposite of Resident Evil, but in a good way though, in a good way. The game tackles every dark theme from drugs, the occult, and a bit of violence thrown in there, and it checks out every box on what it needs to be a horror game, and for that, I commend Konami for making this game. Hence why my final score for the game gets a out of 10. Oh look, I just noticed that my lights are back on. If you guys didn't know, I was going through a bit of a rough blackout for the past couple of hours, and it came just in time too, since it's midnight right now. That means it's Halloween right now. Look at that. It's miraculous, isn't it? Well, I hope, my fellow viewers, that you have a safe and socially distant Halloween, wear your mask, stay 6 feet apart, and have some horror fun. In times like this with this pandemic, having fun is the only cure for this madness, so I really hope you guys stay safe out there. And most of all, take care, and see you in the next video.